including everything that we have discussed. For sound quality, I know some folks already hopped on this, which I appreciate, but we ask that everyone remains muted unless you're speaking, at which point please mute yourself, be part of the conversation. And lastly, this doesn't seem like a problem with this group, but if you feel comfortable, we encourage you to have your cameras on. It's great in this virtual world, and especially our national reach, to have everyone together, at least virtually seeing everyone's faces as if we're all together at the table. Everyone on today's call has spoken with a member of our team, either Devin, Maggie, or myself, and has indicated interest in taking further action, and we're excited to continue doing so afterwards. If you could mute yourselves, thank you. Okay, so with that, I'd like to introduce you to our resident, or one of two resident experts on communications that we work with here. First, I want to kick it off to Christine at Spitfire, but then later you'll be hearing from Annabelle. So Christine, I'll hand it off to you.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Christine Mickelson. I work at Spitfire Strategies in our New York City office. My pronouns are she, her. And we've been working with Business Forward for a while now, and I just feel so lucky to get to connect with you on this. So what we're going to do to kick this off, and I think it really helps us get to know you better, is if everybody can introduce themselves with their name, the business that you work for, and the issue or that you own, and an issue that you care about. And I will just because everybody is in different places on each other's screen, I'll just I'll call out your names, and if you feel comfortable sharing, then please do. So first, Delano Wilson, your name, your business, and an issue that you care about.
My name is Delano Wilson. I'm out of the great state of Louisiana. And one issue that I care about is neurodiversity in the workplace, about giving the least among us an opportunity to display their talents in the workplace and also feel comfortable displaying their talents, even though they are not mentally, but they just think differently than some of the other employees that's going to be on the team.
Okay, I love that. Thank you. Lakeisha, am I saying that right?
Hi, it's Lakeisha.
Lakeisha.
I am from Chicago, Illinois. I'm representing Critical Conversations in Color, and I also care about diversity in the workplace. But before that, women's reproductive rights.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Teresha.
So my name is Sharisha Garrett. So it seems like we have a lot of people who are passionate about diversity, equity, inclusion. I do work in that area too. I'm the owner of Sharp Education Consulting. I've been around for 8 years, primarily provide diversity, equity, inclusion training for educational institutions because I'm a former teacher. And furthermore, I'm passionate about voting. That is my big thing, is trying to make sure that everyone is able to exercise their right to vote.
I love that. Also, yes, please do correct me on your names. As somebody that often gets referred to as Kristen, I like being corrected. Chris.
Hey, everybody. Sorry I'm late. Yeah, so Chris Mao, I'm the CEO of Grow Local, and we're passionate about food, specifically making sure that people have access to proper nutrition. Yeah.
Great. Frank. Oh, Frank, you're muted. Oh, Frank. Sorry, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm the president of Sustainable Development for Environmental Health. It's a company that I founded myself. So I've been invited to attend this training. So I'm here to listen and learn.
Great, wonderful. Thanks for sharing. George.
Hi, I'm a substitute teacher. I'm also an author. And my issue that I'm passionate about amongst the rest is right now the environment.
Wonderful. John?
Hello, professor with Keller Graduate School of Management for 42 years, founder of my own university, and author of 9 different books, 2 of which may be of interest to you, especially in today's material, Train the Trainer, a book and a workbook. 9 additional books are all on Amazon, and I'm not saying for you to buy them on Amazon. If you go there and you like any of my books, let me know. I can send it to you for 50% discount because I got 50% royalties. Okay, passionate about gun violence and how to solve that. And if anybody from your team or Liz, the ultimate authority of the organization, is interested in speaking with me about how to resolve that gun violence epidemic that we have in our country, I'm open. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Carl?
Carl Smith. I have Accelerations Educational Software, make software for children with learning disabilities, autism, and other learning disabilities. I have a 27-year-old with autism. So I'm passionate about having an economy that's going to actually be there long after I'm gone to be able to support my son. And the Democrats, I love what they do. They're on the right side of the fundamentals, but they've never messaged well. And Republicans have basically a really horrible product, but they sell the hell out of it. So my passion is about getting Democrats to sell how we're not just helping the people with our investments and policies, but we're critical for businesses to prosper as well. So that's where I'm about.
Great, thank you, Carl. Sandra, and for people just joining us, we're just doing our names and our businesses and the issue that we're really passionate about at the moment. Oh, you're still muted, Sandra.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Sandra Curley. I am the president and CEO of Supreme Company, wholesaler of books. I've been in business for 30 years. We're at supremebooks.com. And I am passionate about equality for women and minorities in education, making sure that especially every child receives a quality education and does have access to quality books and educational materials.
Wonderful. Sam.
Hi there. Sam Tastic with Cabbage and American Express. We care about small business empowerment, access to capital, and spend a lot of time on equitable lending. So good to be here today. Thanks for having me.
Great, thanks, Sam. Sarah?
She flagged she might not be able to speak right now.
Sorry.
All good.
And I think lastly, Agatha, am I saying that right? Oh.
Agatha, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Hi.
Hi.
How you guys doing? I'm multitasking.
Oh, you're fine.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, with that, I am going to hand it over to Annabelle to introduce herself and get us started.
Hi, folks. So my name is Annabelle. I work with Christine at Spitfire Strategies, and I'm based in DC, but I'm from the California Bay Area. And we are a strategic communications firm that works almost exclusively with nonprofits and foundations, and have been lucky enough to support Business Forward and their small business leaders for the last year or two now. And so we hold these monthly sessions to help you build up your capacity around strategic communications so that you can use your voice to advocate on the issues that you really care about as a small business leader. So as Thorin mentioned today, we're going to be talking about panels and like speaking opportunities through panels. And, this is just one of the many ways that you can use your voice as a business leader on issues that you care about, whether that's through Business Forward, who often hosts panels with decision makers, advocacy groups, and others, and invites small business leaders to participate as part of, or maybe it's other opportunities that you're receiving outside of the network. But we just want to talk you through some best practices to make sure that you can make the most out of those panel opportunities. So today's agenda is we're going to talk a little bit about the focus on strategy and how to use your precious time and be smart about opportunities that come your way so that you can actually achieve the goals you have related to using your voice. Then we'll talk a little bit about sort of understanding the basics of panels and how to do that effectively. And then hopefully we'll have some time to actually do some practice, and we'll do some role play so that people can put what we talk about into practice during our session. So please feel free as we go through these tips and tricks to drop some stuff in the chat if you have any questions, and we'll be off to the races. So first off, like I said, you always want to start with strategy, no matter what communication you are working on, whether that is a marketing email or you're updating your website or you're talking to a reporter. You always start with strategy so that you can use your time effectively and actually achieve the outcomes that you're looking for as a business leader and as an advocate. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the important sort of pieces of that, but especially when it comes to a panel, this can be a really strategic opportunity to help you achieve your goals, both from your business perspective, but also from an advocacy perspective. But if you don't think or give yourself space about what it is that you really want to achieve, it can be, you can end up doing a lot of activities or a lot of speaking events that aren't necessarily the best time. And we know as small business leaders, as we've already talked about, many of us have to multitask constantly throughout the day. And so being smart and strategic about how you use your time is really important. So first up, you want to take some time before you even say yes to a panel opportunity or you go to seek one out. You should always think about what it is that you want to achieve before you say yes. So we recommend starting with a goal. And there's a couple, is it that you want to share information, educate audiences on an issue that they may not know about? Is it that you want to encourage people to take action on that issue? And if so, what specific action do you want them to take? Do you want to be able to build connections or your reputation among like-minded folks or as a thought leader? And all of the talking points that you'll then use if you decide to do the panel would be driving towards that goal. So first you want to think about, what do I actually want to achieve? Then you want to think about, who do I actually need to reach? Because it could be it's a great panel, but it's not in front of the audience that you actually need to reach to achieve that goal. So think about who it is that you need to reach. Is it policymakers, and which kind? Are they in your state? Are they at the federal level? Are they on your school board? Is it funders? Is it people that are giving away small business loans? Is it other businesses? But you want to get as specific as possible about who you want to reach, no matter what kind of communication activity you're doing. And then lastly is you might want to think about evaluating those opportunities that come your way, whether it's from the Business Forward Network or from other opportunities for panels, and make sure that it tracks back to those goals and audiences that you have decided are important for you as a business leader. So we always start with strategy. So once you've decided that you want to take that opportunity, you want to do the panel, Thorin calls you up and says, "Hey, I've got this great thing for you," and you're getting ready for it. I wanted to share a couple preparation things to keep in mind. So first off is you want to spend some time thinking about potential questions you might get asked. When you do a panel, people will send those ahead of time. You can always ask. And otherwise, it might be that you need to sort of anticipate some of the questions based on what you already know about the panel and the people who are going to be on it. I also recommend, just like we do with media interviews, is it's really important day of the panel or maybe the day before the panel to do a quick scan of the news to see if there's any sort of late breaking topics related to the issue that you're going to talk about on the panel that might come up because it's super timely. So let's say, John, you're doing a panel about gun violence. Of course, unfortunately, gun violence has been in the news in a big way recently. And so you'll want to make sure that you have sort of the latest breaking news related to those issues before you get on the panel so that you're not sort of caught off guard when something comes up. Another thing is you want to make sure that you are preparing your message. So the best communicators are ones who think really clearly and drawing back to those goals we already talked about. What are the 2 to 3 key messages that I want to make sure the audience walks away with after this panel based on my own sort of goals and purpose for taking part of this? So, I wouldn't overcomplicate it. I would try to focus on those 2 to 3 main points that you want to communicate as part of that panel, and then practice getting in those message points early and often, sort of no matter what kinds of questions you're asked. So you can always build on those key points, but the main thing you want to do is make sure that those key points are super, super clear and sticky, to the point that that Carl made is like they market the hell out of it, and we really need to be doing the same. So we need to have clear, sticky points that people can remember and walk away with when we are participating in things like panels or media interviews. Another thing that's like specific to panels that I think is important is that panels are sort of a unique opportunity for people to hear a variety of opinions or perspectives on any particular issue. And so the last thing you really want to do as a panelist is just repeat what other people have already said. On one hand, it's not great practice because it makes for a less interesting conversation. It means that you're using up your precious time to sort of restate something that someone's already said. But it also can sometimes feel to the other panelists or to the audience that you aren't taking, or you aren't giving credit to the person that already sort of made the comment that you're building on. So I would say always try to build on what other panelists are saying. And one challenge is you don't have to answer every question. Most of the time, it's best to chime in when you feel like you have something new or unique to add to the existing conversation. So another thing related to that on panels is that you really want to lean into your unique experience. So usually what I would say is do your homework on the other panelists before you join so that you can get a sense of what their expertise is, what kinds of talking points they may come ready to share, so that you can think through, okay, what is the unique thing that me as a small business leader, as an advocate on a particular issue, as someone with lived experience can bring to this specific topic, and then focus your messages on that. So you really want to focus on what are the key things that I can bring uniquely from my perspective to this conversation. And, we've done sessions about the business case, but that's a great thing to consider. To your point, Carl, what is the business case for, education? What is the business case related to preventing gun violence? What is the business case related to equity and pieces like that? Because that can be a unique lens that you as a business leader can bring. And then maybe it's stories specific from your small business. People love stories. They're great to share on panels. And so I would think about how to integrate that into some of your answers. And I'm going to pass it over to Christine to walk us through some more tips and tricks.
Great. So one of the things that I think that we are naturally inclined to do is we'll get a question and you just start answering right away. Maybe it's because we all went through this in school, but we just feel like this immediate urge to answer exactly what somebody is asking as soon as they answer it. Do yourself a favor and train yourself to take a breath before you start speaking. It gives you time, one, to digest the question, so you make sure that you're really answering it, but it also gives you a second to slow down and don't do what I am naturally inclined to do, which is talk way too fast. So always remember to take a breath. It's okay to pause. People expect it, and it actually gives the audience time to digest as well. The other thing to do is to really keep it simple. Again, to Carl's point, conservatives tend to have really just clear, sticky, repeatable messages that are like really, really boiled down. You all are experts in your field and might have a lot of technical knowledge that's a little bit hard for people to understand. So you want to make sure to really boil it down, use clear language, avoid jargon. And one of the ways that you can do that is, like Annabelle said before, make sure that you have your key points written down, so you don't sort of get swept into jargon land as you're going. The other thing we suggest that people do, and this is always true, is to emphasize stories, draw on your personal experiences, things that you've seen. It connects you to the audience in a way that like just plain facts and figures or talking points don't. But then you back them up with facts and figures. So not only are they personally connected, now they have something they can really latch on to. We also suggest don't speculate or move away from your expertise, and it's okay to defer on a question. If somebody says something to you or asks a question that it's sort of out of your comfort zone or out of your area of expertise, it's okay to say, that's not really like within the realm of my expertise. I think so and so would be like more appropriate to answer this question. Or you can also use something that we call a bridging phrase, which is, well, I can't really speak to that, but what I can speak to is X, Y, and Z, something that moves away from this sort of area that you're not as comfortable with and back into the area that you are. The other thing is to be brief. Instead of speaking for multiple minutes, try to keep it a little bit truncated. It's also okay to ask beforehand, before you go into a panel, how much time you'll be given or how much time they suggest for each question. Some people actually have suggestions, keep it to 30 seconds, keep it to a minute. No, you have 5 minutes. It's good to know beforehand, but try to keep it as brief as possible so that you can really keep the audience engaged. And the last piece is those key points that you write down or you have practiced before a panel like this. You want to flag that for your audience. And it's as simple as saying, like, if you take away anything from this, the one thing I want you to know is X, Y, and Z. Let the audience know, even if like they've been tuned out or like we are all doing now is multitasking. They're going to key in for this one piece. They're going to know that this is what they should be taking away from this. So really flag that for your audience so they know what to take away. Do you guys have any questions for what we've covered so far?
Has anyone, oh, there we go. I see you, John.
If you have a panel of 3 or 4 people and somebody asks a question and 2 or 3 people from the panel want to answer, and we have seen these people jumping, somebody else jumps at the same time, then the first person stops, then the other person stops. Do you folks have a technique that you can introduce so they can look professional in replying to questions?
Yeah, I think in part is I would always sort of ask the facilitator or the moderator beforehand about how they want to manage folks and, responding to questions. A lot of times it's helpful for them to actually say, John, why don't you answer that one first? So like sometimes it can be actually partnering with the facilitator or moderator to make sure that doesn't happen, or like to set up some guardrails to help you as panelists.
How you doing?
We'll start getting a little bit of feedback there. The other thing I would say, John, is one of the practices we sort of preach is what we call step up, step back. And what it means is that if you hear your voice a lot in a conversation, it might be a cue to you to step back and give space for the people who haven't yet had an opportunity to chime in to take that. And you can even do it verbally. You could even say, I'd love to comment on that, but we haven't heard from so-and-so yet. So I'm going to give them a moment. So even just like creating space, recognizing that different people sort of need different cues to feel comfortable enough to ask or to say what they want to say. And then the step up part of that is if you're someone who's less likely to sort of jump in and add your voice during a panel, to make sure that if you haven't heard yourself talk yet, it's important to like do what you can to feel comfortable and add your voice. So it could be, you could make a signal to the panel, to the moderator, like raise your hand or nod your head or something that lets them know that you want to answer the question, because sometimes it's easier if you're not super comfortable jumping in to be cued to do that. So I think a lot of it is like understanding your own self and what your skills and strengths are, and then doing what you can to sort of set up the situation to play to those strengths. So that's
May
my
I tell you what I recommend to my people?
Sure.
Thank you. Usually the presenters have materials in front of them or something like a bottle of water or papers. Now, as the question comes up, the presenters know whose subject that is and who can do that. So the person who wants to answer first takes the materials that he or she has in front of them and pushes them a little forward. That is a cue to the other two or three that I can take this. I know this subject. Okay, so that's a good cue that I've used with my trainees and it works. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That's a great one. What about any other questions? Anyone have like something that went really well on a panel? Something that was sort of frustrating on a panel you've been on in the past? Something maybe that's been a barrier for you in joining panels? Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, do you have any recommendations for how do you deal with an unruly panel member or one that will not stop talking?
It's a really good question. It happens to the best of people sometimes, where they just sort of get motor mouth or they're nervous or like whatever it is, and they, or it's just a personality archetype. I would say most of the time that should be a moderator's role or facilitator's role. It can be a little bit challenging as another panelist to manage that. But sometimes what I do is I will give a verbal cue as someone's talking to let them sort of know that it's time for someone else to add. So if someone's talking, I'll start going, yes, that's a really interesting point. For me, that brings up X. So it doesn't always work, but sometimes like getting more sort of either visually or verbally responsive to whatever they're saying is usually enough of a social cue to someone that you want to build on what they're saying, or that they should take a breath and pause for a moment. But again, I think that in general, that's a good thing to connect with the moderator or a facilitator with beforehand. Because it can be a little awkward as a panelist to try to manage that. But it's a great question, Chris. How about you, Carl?
Well, if the moderator's not doing a good job of moving it around the panel, sometimes what I've done is instead of drawing focus to myself, I've said, oh, I think so-and-so has an interesting point about that, which gives basically deflects for me and basically gets another panel member involved.
Yeah, that's a great point, Carl. Any other questions? Things that have worked for you well in the past?
I don't know if you can see my hand, but
I can't. I'm sorry. Please jump in.
Annabelle, so I am in total agreement. I have mostly been a moderator or facilitator of panels. And one key thing is that when you're considering joining panels, consider the structure of which the moderator plans to move the conversation forward. And typically the protocol that I use is that I meet with each panelist one by one, and then we meet together. And so there's a camaraderie for about, we meet for about 30 minutes just to kind of fill out the questions and fill out the audience. And so if that's not happening, or if that's not a part of the organization strategy, I would reconsider joining that panel to, avoid that roadblock.
It's a really good point. And I think that goes back to like the strategy piece, like, and if they want you to hop on a panel tomorrow, right, without giving you adequate like preparation or information about it, like not every opportunity is the right one for you. And I think that that's a really good flag about, like, especially if the moderator isn't giving you good information about how it's going to be run or what kinds of questions you can anticipate or who else will be on it with you, that those are all sort of red flags to joining something. Do you have any other, so another opportunity is you don't necessarily have to be a panelist, you can be a moderator or facilitator. Do you have other suggestions around that front, since it sounds like that's something you've done before?
I think it's much easier to be a moderator or facilitator than a panelist. Number one, you get to have a very public facing level of responsibility. You get to do most of the research ahead of time of your panelists and the subject matters. And so you have, all of this information, and you get to really leverage it in a direction that you want for the good of the organization that you're representing. And so I would say if there's opportunity for any of us to be moderators, try that first. And then you will, I believe, have more insight on what it takes to be a panelist. And then you'll know what to look for as well when you're seeking to be a panelist.
I think that's great. That's a great recommendation. Any other questions, comments? If not, then I thought we could sort of have some fun and maybe do some role playing. I thought that I could be your moderator extraordinaire, and we could choose one or two folks to join on a panel with me. And I have a couple questions. And again, this is just for fun. This is to put some of the practices we just talked about into, a real life experience, so that you can, this really is such a safe space. So it's a great place to try it out. Is anyone willing to give it a shot? And we'll talk about things that we've already, the issues you've mentioned you're interested in and your experience as a business leader. So I won't pull you on a panel about like exotic species or anything, I promise.
I'll do it if you want.
Okay.
No one else is going to.
Amazing. Thank you. Could I ask one more person? And maybe I'll put one of the business forward people on the spot to be one of my panelists.
This is Delano. I'll do it.
Yes, thank you. I knew I could rely on you, Delano. I appreciate that. Can I get one more?
Man, nobody else is stepping forward. I'll do it.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Okay, let's give a round of applause to our wonderful panelists. Okay. All right. So thank you so much to my esteemed panelists who have come to talk to us today about the importance of engaging business leaders in policy conversations. I am excited to ask you a couple questions about why you think business leaders are such important thought leaders in this work. So my first question goes to Chris. Why do you think, business leaders should, or why do you think policy leaders or policymakers should engage with business leaders on key issues?
Well, I think it's it serves as an opportunity to help ground our policymakers in the more day-to-day actions. And often business leaders are interacting with numerous consumers, whether they're consumers of services or consumers of products or other like things. So it's a good grounding mechanism, and it could be a good way to, it really just depends on your perspective, the lens that you're looking at with this, right? So if we're talking economic development, there could be private public partnership opportunities, grant opportunities, things like that. And I think those are maybe just a couple of areas anyway.
Yeah. And Chris, I know that you really care about local food systems. So are there specific issues on top of your mind as you're looking ahead to the midterms?
Oh, countless. Really what I'm focused on right now, we have a water-based technology that can turn around high density, like nutritionally dense produce in as little as 48 hours. And there's a huge problem. I've been speaking with all sorts of folks all over the place, but from a government perspective, I've been speaking a lot with the EPA and some of their programming to address food deserts across the U.S. And I find that there's a lot of conflicting policy as it kind of comes down into the regulatory side that actually prevents some of the most nutritious forms of produce from actually even hitting the market. So I don't know, there's just a ton of different areas I could go into, but
no,
I
thank you.
This.
Yeah, no, thanks, Chris. That's really helpful. So to my other panelists, what are some of the issues that are top of your mind as business leaders looking into ahead to the midterms?
Right now, I would say voting is definitely something I'm very passionate about. A lot of times people are not, there are some people who are just not, who are disengaged, especially are disengaged because they don't feel as if the politicians are speaking on their behalf. And so I'm really trying to get those people to be involved in some way. A lot of times people don't understand how the state and local elections directly affect them, more so than the federal elections. And so I am trying to figure out how can I get those individuals who don't typically vote. And also want to ensure that we're putting people in office that are going to advocate for those individuals who don't have positions of power, which of course we were thinking about women, minorities, the LGBTQI communities. So those are something that this summer I'm really trying to figure out, host some community conversations and do some quick little lessons about government to get some community members more involved in politics.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so what would you say along those same lines, like what can business leaders specifically do to promote fair voting rights or promote voting rights as part of their?
So even simple, actually I had a conversation with someone a couple months ago about this. And we were thinking about having restaurants, just having like a little code that they can scan just to register to vote, or even having like different incentives to get people to vote. Of course, nonpartisan. For example, you voted today, take a picture of you with your voting sticker. Just creative ways to get people engaged in voting. We know that it's hard at this present time to be biased, but I think based on what I'm hearing from other individuals, I hear that people have a specific stance concerning the current political climate. But I think as businesses, because we're supposed to be as neutral as possible, it's just ensuring that we inform our customers or the people that we interact with on a daily basis the importance of voting, and also ensuring that we maybe connect with or sit on panels with individuals who are aligned with our beliefs. So a lot of times, if you think of a politician with abortion rights or voting rights, see if you can work with those politicians and see how you two can partner. That will be an opportunity for a business and a politician to get involved with one another.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So I love the idea of businesses partnering with policymakers or other community members as part of a way to focus attention on an issue Delano, can you tell me a little bit about how you might have done that in your work related to engaging companies around hiring and supporting neurodivergent people?
Well, thank you for the question. One thing is collaboration and teamwork. And whatever it is that we do, you're going to need collaboration and teamwork. And when it comes to politics, the simple thing is politics is always local. But being a business person myself, being a part of the school board and being at school board meetings, and just being engaged and understanding the, I say the lay of the land. I have neurodiversity kids. I have a daughter that's graduated from LSU. She had ADD, but she graduated with a landscape architecture degree. And I have twin sons that are in civil engineering program. But the key thing that we do is if we're not collaborating and we don't have a teamwork type mentality, it just doesn't work. And then also with politics being local, just getting to know the issues or facing it at a very neutral thinking type of process. That's for me as a business person to come in to try to understand both sides, but still being neutral to understand this is a team and we all going to have to, we're going for the same goal because we all want to win in neurodiversity in the workplace.
Thank you, Delano. So thank you so much to our panelists. Is there anything final you'd like to say before we close out our panel?
No, thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Okay, let's give them a round of applause. Nice work. John, you had your hand up.
Yes, well, you know what my main issue is, especially now for the midterms, and of course it has been for a while, gun violence, okay? Now, let me just preface my remarks, and I'll try to be short. When I discussed this issue, or actually my solution, with a state representative by name Chris Welch, and you can verify all this, in the state of Illinois, who recently, by the way, became the Speaker of the House. When I discussed my concept with him, he said two things. Wow, why didn't I think of it? Why no one hasn't thought of it? That was the first. And the second was, John, are you willing to come to Springfield to present your concept to the entire panel? And I said, absolutely. However, therefore, for him to feel that this is good enough for me to present it to the Illinois Assembly, I hope you realize that the concept is viable. However, I also want my organization, the USGLC and Liz, to take lead on this. So if you can relate that to Liz and have her call me, you folks have all my information. It's in your office. I'll be delighted to discuss it with you and have your organization promoted along with the state of Illinois. Thank you.
Thanks, John. All right. Well, so thank you so much, y'all. I appreciate you joining us today. I hope this was helpful. And I appreciate especially to my wonderful panelists who let us have a little bit of fun and put some of this into practice. And I will pass it over to Thorin to close us out.
I was muted. Apologies. Happens to the best of us. Thank you all so very much for attending. Thank you both Christine and Annabelle for helping and sharing some of your wisdom and expertise on the issues. For those who want to continue the conversation, you should all have one of our contact information, either myself, Devin, or Maggie, and we would love to continue the conversation with you. We, as kind of more tangible next steps, if you'd like to write a specific statement on one of the issues that you've discussed, we'd be happy to do so. A short 3 to 5 sentence, really punchy statement is really effective in kind of multiple different avenues that we can then amplify. We also are arranging, each one of us, Devin, Maggie, and myself, are arranging roundtables, which is a panel on specifically workforce development and education issues. So if you're interested in those issues and would like to talk to one of us about possibly being on one of the panel or roundtables, we'd be happy to do so. And as a reminder, both the deck that was shared today and the recording of this will be sent to you afterwards if you had to step away for a moment or just wanted to review the material. So other than that, thank you all so very much. Thank you, Spitfire team, and we will see you at the next media training. All right, everyone.